Amanda Everwood, with her chestnut hair and piercing blue eyes, embodied elegance and creativity. Born into a family of artists, her childhood home was infused with the scent of oil paints and the sight of canvases in various stages of completion. Amanda inherited her mother's artistic talent and her father's determination, quickly establishing herself as an exceptional landscape artist. Her works were celebrated for their vibrant colors and the way they captured the essence of nature. In contrast, Richard Everwood hailed from a lineage of lawyers. The Everwood family was renowned for their legal expertise, with generations serving as judges, attorneys, and legal scholars. Richard followed in their footsteps, excelling in law school, graduating at the top of his class, and rapidly climbing the ranks at one of Belleville's most prestigious law firms. His charm, good looks, and sharp mind made him a formidable attorney and a desirable husband. Amanda and Richard met during their sophomore year of college, in what seemed a classic case of opposites attracting. Amanda's free-spirited nature complemented Richard's structured and disciplined approach to life. They quickly fell in love, their relationship blossoming amidst late-night study sessions, gallery openings, and summer road trips. After graduating, they married in a lavish ceremony that became the talk of Belleville. They settled into a beautiful Victorian home that Amanda adored, transforming it into a haven filled with art, music, and love. The house featured a large garden where Amanda often painted, drawing inspiration from the vibrant flowers and changing seasons. Meanwhile, Richard was devoted to his work, often spending long hours at the office. They had a son, Ethan, who became the center of Amanda's world. Their life seemed perfect, at least on the surface. Amanda's days were filled with painting, volunteering at the local art center, and caring for Ethan. Richard's career continued to flourish, and he was soon made a partner at his firm. They attended glamorous parties and charity events, where they were often the center of attention. However, as the years passed, Amanda began to notice subtle changes in Richard. He became more distant, often coming home late and leaving early in the morning. The once warm and affectionate man she had married was now cold and preoccupied. Amanda tried to ignore these changes, attributing them to the stress of his demanding job. However, the gnawing suspicion in the back of her mind grew stronger with each passing day. Carla Rowe entered their lives when Richard hired her as his personal secretary. Carla was stunning, with dark cascading hair, sharp features, and an aura of confidence that turned heads wherever she went. She was efficient, intelligent, and seemed to understand Richard in a way that Amanda no longer could. It wasn't long before Amanda's suspicions turned toward Carla. One evening, Amanda decided to confront Richard. She prepared a candlelit dinner, hoping to reignite the spark in their relationship and get him to open up. As they sat across from each other at the dining table, Amanda poured out her heart, expressing her concerns and fears. Richard listened but dismissed her worries, attributing his behavior to the pressures of his job. He assured her that there was nothing to worry about, but Amanda wasn't convinced. Determined to uncover the truth, Amanda hired a private investigator named Mark Collins. Mark was a seasoned professional with a reputation for discretion and thoroughness. Over the next few weeks, he followed Richard and Carla, documenting their interactions. The evidence he gathered was damning: late-night dinners, weekends away, and intimate encounters that left no room for doubt. Richard was having an affair with Carla. Amanda felt a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, and deep sadness. She couldn't understand how Richard could do this to their family. But amidst her turmoil, she also felt a strange sense of relief. At least now, she knew the truth and could decide what to do next. Armed with the evidence, Amanda's initial devastation gave way to steely resolve. She decided to confront Carla first, hoping to gather more information before dealing with Richard. Amanda arranged a meeting under the pretense of discussing a charity event that Richard's firm was sponsoring. Carla, unaware of Amanda's true intentions, agreed to meet at a chic downtown cafe. The cafe was a cozy, intimate space with soft lighting and plush seating. Amanda arrived early, choosing a secluded corner table where they could talk privately. Carla walked in a few minutes later, exuding confidence and poise. As she approached the table, Amanda felt a mixture of anger and curiosity. Carla greeted Amanda warmly and commented on how beautiful the cafe was. Amanda, hiding her true feelings, replied politely and steered the conversation toward Richard. She mentioned how Richard had been spending a lot of time at the office and asked how he was handling the workload. Carla responded that Richard was incredibly dedicated and that the cases he was working on required much of his time and attention. Amanda then leaned in and, in a low voice, told Carla that she knew about the affair. Carla's face paled, and she opened her mouth to speak, but Amanda stopped her, saying she wasn't there to accuse or blame her. Amanda just wanted to understand why it happened. Carla, with tears in her eyes, explained that it started a few years ago when Richard was going through a rough patch at work. They began spending more time together, and one thing led to another. As Carla spoke, Amanda felt a strange sense of empathy. She could see the pain in Carla's eyes, a reflection of her own turmoil. By the end of the conversation, they had formed an unexpected connection. Amanda was captivated by Carla's intelligence and charisma, while Carla found solace in Amanda's understanding and compassion. In the weeks that followed, Amanda and Carla continued to meet in secret. What had started as a confrontation evolved into a complex relationship. Their meetings became more frequent, and their bond deepened. One evening, Carla invited Amanda to her apartment, ostensibly to review some documents related to the charity event. The apartment was a stylish, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city. As they sat on the couch, sipping wine and talking, the tension between them grew palpable. Carla set her glass down and looked into Amanda's eyes, saying that she had developed feelings for her. Amanda's heart raced. She had felt the same way but had been too afraid to admit it. She confessed that she felt the same. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, and that night, they crossed the line from emotional connection to physical intimacy. The affair was intense, a whirlwind of stolen moments and secret rendezvous. Amanda felt alive in a way she hadn't in years, but she was also plagued by guilt and fear. They would meet in secluded spots around the city, hidden corners of parks, out-of-the-way cafes, and Carla's apartment, where they felt free from the prying eyes of the world. Their conversations ranged from deep philosophical discussions to light-hearted banter. They shared their hopes, dreams, and fears, forming a bond that went beyond physical attraction. However, Amanda was acutely aware of the precariousness of their situation. She knew that if Richard found out, the consequences would be dire. Despite this, she couldn't bring herself to end the affair. Carla had become an essential part of her life, filling a void she hadn't realized existed. Richard's suspicions grew as he noticed Amanda's changed behavior. She was more distant, often lost in thought, and seemed to have a newfound sense of confidence. Richard's paranoia led him to install a hidden camera in Carla's apartment, suspecting that Amanda might have discovered his affair and was plotting against him. When Richard reviewed the footage and saw his wife with Carla, his rage and sense of betrayal reached a boiling point. He felt emasculated and humiliated, convinced that both women had conspired against him. Richard began meticulously planning his revenge, determined to regain control over his life. One stormy night, Richard invited Amanda to his office under the pretense of wanting to discuss their relationship and seeking a path forward. Amanda, hopeful for reconciliation, agreed to meet Richard in his dimly lit office. The cold intensity in his eyes struck her as she walked in. With a voice devoid of emotion, Richard commanded Amanda to sit. As she took her seat, heart pounding, she began to speak, but Richard cut her off, slamming a folder filled with photographs onto the desk. "I know everything," he said, his voice icy. "I know about you and Carla." Amanda's eyes widened in shock as she gazed at the incriminating photos. She pleaded with Richard to let her explain, but he was beyond reason. In a fit of rage, he lunged at her, his hands closing around her throat. Amanda struggled desperately, clawing at his hands, but Richard's grip was unyielding. Her vision blurred, and within moments, her life was extinguished. Standing over Amanda's lifeless body, Richard's mind was a storm of rage and confusion. He knew he had to act fast. He staged the scene to look like a robbery gone wrong, ransacking the office and scattering papers. Then, driven by uncontrollable fury, he headed to Carla's apartment. Carla was startled when Richard appeared at her door. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. But Richard, eyes blazing with fury, pushed past her. He accused her of seducing Amanda, destroying his family. Carla, terrified, backed away, pleading for him to understand, but Richard was beyond reason. He lunged at her, but she evaded his attack, grabbing a heavy vase and smashing it over his head. Richard staggered, momentarily disoriented, giving Carla the chance to escape. She fled into the night, rain-soaked and frantic, knowing that if Richard caught her, he would kill her. Carla ran until she reached the outskirts of town, finding refuge in an abandoned cabin. Her body trembled with adrenaline and fear as she slipped inside, trying to catch her breath. The next morning, Ethan Everwood found himself without a mother, and soon, without a father. Richard, desperate to cover his tracks, reported Amanda missing and concocted an alibi. But the police quickly uncovered inconsistencies in his story. Amanda's body was discovered in Richard's office, and the forensic evidence, along with Richard's erratic behavior, led to his arrest. He was convicted of Amanda's murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Meanwhile, Carla had vanished without a trace. Her car was found abandoned miles away from Belleville. Some speculated that she fled the country, while others believed she started a new life under a different identity. For Carla, fleeing wasn't just about escaping Richard. It was a lifeline to freedom from a life marked by suppression and fear. Ethan, now orphaned, was taken in by Amanda's sister, Lydia, who did her best to create a stable environment for him. But the shadow of his parents' tragedy loomed large over his childhood. Lydia often wondered what kind of man Ethan would become, carrying the weight of such a dark legacy. Carla's escape was fraught with difficulty. She moved from place to place, using different names and taking on various odd jobs to survive. Her once confident demeanor was replaced by constant anxiety and fear of being recognized. She found temporary solace in small towns where she could blend into the background, dyeing her hair and changing her appearance. Yet each time she felt someone might recognize her, she moved on. In a small coastal town far from Belleville, Carla finally found a semblance of stability. She took a job at a local diner, working long hours and keeping to herself. For the first time in months, she began to relax and let her guard down a little. Ethan, now a teenager, struggled with the burden of his family's dark history. He was a quiet, introspective boy, often lost in thought. School was a challenge, with classmates either avoiding him or bullying him for his father's crime. Ethan found solace in books, spending hours at the local library. Lydia encouraged him to pursue his interests, hoping to provide a positive outlet. Ethan developed a passion for writing, pouring his emotions into his stories. His teachers noticed his talent and encouraged him to pursue a career in literature. Despite his dark past, Ethan found hope in the future he could create for himself. One day, while browsing old family photo albums, Ethan came across a photograph of his parents during happier times. They looked so in love, so full of life. He wondered how everything had gone so wrong. Determined to understand, Ethan began digging deeper into his family's history. He read old newspaper articles, interviewed people who had known his parents, and pieced together the story of their lives. Ethan's investigation led him to uncover the affair between his father and Carla. Though shocked and saddened by the betrayal, he felt a strange connection to Carla. His search for answers led him to contact Mark Collins, the private investigator his mother had hired. Mark, now retired, was hesitant to reopen old wounds but was moved by Ethan's determination. He shared the details of his investigation and the events that transpired. Ethan learned about the confrontation between his mother and Carla, their affair, and the night his mother was murdered. He felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a deep need for closure. Determined to find Carla, Ethan followed the trail she had left behind. His search eventually led him to the small coastal town where Carla was now living. Carla was working her usual shift at the diner when Ethan walked in. She didn't recognize him at first, but as he approached, she saw a familiar sadness in his eyes. Ethan introduced himself as Amanda and Richard's son. Carla, stunned, felt a mixture of fear and hope. She invited Ethan to sit down, and they began to talk. Ethan told Carla about his life, his struggles, and his search for answers. Carla, in turn, shared her story, her escape and her attempts to rebuild her life. They talked for hours, sharing their pain and their memories of Amanda. Carla revealed how deeply she had loved Amanda, and how the affair had been both a source of joy and torment. Ethan asked Carla about the night his mother was murdered. Her voice trembling with emotion, Carla recounted the events, the confrontation, Richard's rage, and her desperate escape. Ethan listened intently, feeling a mix of anger toward his father and compassion for Carla. Ethan decided to stay in the coastal town for a while, to get to know Carla better and to find closure for himself. They spent a lot of time together, talking about Amanda, sharing stories, and helping each other heal. Carla found comfort in Ethan's presence, and Ethan felt a sense of connection and understanding that he had never felt before. As time passed, Ethan and Carla's relationship grew stronger. They became a support system for each other, helping to heal the wounds of the past. Ethan continued to write, inspired by Carla's stories and the strength he saw in her. Carla found a new sense of purpose in helping Ethan and finding a way to move forward with her life. Years later, Ethan published his first novel, a fictionalized account of his family's story. The book received critical acclaim, praised for its emotional depth and storytelling. He dedicated the book to his mother, Amanda, and to Carla, who had shown him the importance of understanding and forgiveness. Carla continued to live in the coastal town, finding peace and stability. She stayed in touch with Ethan, visiting him often and watching him grow into a successful writer. She found solace in knowing that she had helped Ethan find closure, and that they had both found a way to move forward. The Everwood murders became a notorious case in Belleville, a cautionary tale of deceit, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of hidden passions. Amanda's art gained posthumous fame, her landscapes now imbued with a haunting beauty that drew admirers from afar. Richard's name, once respected, became synonymous with tragedy and madness. Years later, the town still whispered about Carla Monroe, the enigmatic secretary who disappeared into the night, her fate one of Belleville's greatest mysteries. Ethan grew up carrying the weight of his parents' legacy, determined to forge a different path and break free from the cycle of betrayal and violence. In the end, the story of the Everwood murders served as a stark reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the devastating consequences of secrets and lies. It was a tale that would be told for generations, a dark chapter in the history of Belleville that would never be forgotten. Ethan continued to write, his works often exploring themes of love, betrayal, and redemption. His novels resonated with readers, many of whom were unaware of the true story behind his words. Despite the darkness of his past, Ethan found a way to turn his pain into art, creating something beautiful from the ashes of his family's tragedy. In the end, the Everwood murders were more than just a crime. They were a story of love, loss, and the enduring power of forgiveness. The lives of those involved were forever changed, but they found a way to move forward, to find peace, and to create something new from the ruins of their past. Make sure to subscribe for more true crime documentaries that you've never heard before.